We are now in the midst of Remembrance Week, and soon Canadians wearing their poppies will gather at cenotaphs across the country to pay tribute to the brave men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the service of Canada. It should also be a time for civilians to reflect on those veterans who returned home with physical or mental wounds due to their experiences on foreign battlefields. Thanks to advances in psychiatric science, we better understand what used to be termed shell shock during the Great War, or battle fatigue during the Second World War, which resulted in the sufferer being officially labeled LMF, meaning lacking moral fiber. It is time to target just how fairly Canada treats those that it has sent into harm's way in war zones around the world. While veterans' benefits have improved considerably in recent decades, not all Canadians sent into war zones are treated equally. By this, I refer to the dozens of Afghan Canadians who served as language and cultural advisors, LCAs, with the Canadian Armed Forces during the decade-long war in Afghanistan. These individuals wore uniforms and body armor, went on patrols outside the wire to act as interpreters for our troops, but they did so as term employees of the D&D. They were recruited for their knowledge of Dari or Pashto languages and their understanding of Afghan cultural practices. Commanders and troops alike considered them to be invaluable. As they were not soldiers, they did not rotate home every 6 months, with many of the LCAs serving in theater for more than 2 years consecutively. Some of these individuals were wounded, and many currently suffer from PTSD. The problem for these LCAs arises from the fact that as federal employees, they had 6 months after completion of their contract to apply for any medical compensation. They are not entitled to benefits from Veterans Affairs Canada. As the effects of PTSD are not necessarily evident in the first 6 months, those LCAs now suffering from the invisible wound of PTSD have literally found themselves in a bureaucratic limbo. Initially, the military directed those affected LCAs to the Ontario Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, WSIB. However, many of the injury claims by the LCAs have been rejected for the simple reason that WSIB officials are not familiar with those who have suffered mental trauma as a result of exposure to a conflict zone. Sadly, this story of neglect was first flagged more than 5 years ago by then Canadian Forces and D&D Ombudsman Greg Lick. He first wrote a letter to D&D Deputy Minister Jody Thomas on 18 June 2019, urging the department to urgently resolve the issue of compensation for the LCAs. On Remembrance Day that same year, the CBC's Murray Brewster broke the story of Mohammed Amin, his last name is withheld for privacy, who had served as an LCA with the CAF in Kandahar and was subsequently denied medical treatment for his PTSD. The result of this double whammy of the Ombudsman's request and a sympathetic media exposure was nada. To their credit, both Ombudsman Lick and Brewster at the CBC have stuck with this crusade. On 29 September 2023, Lick wrote directly to Minister of National Defence Bill Blair to raise this issue to the political level. On 19 October 2023, the CBC headlined Brewster's story, Ombudsman blasts Ottawa's inadequate efforts to help injured Afghan military advisors. The official reaction? Again, nada. On 8 March 2024, Lick again wrote to Minister Blair, only this time he took the unique step of offering a solution to the impasse facing the LCAs. He cited as precedent the federal government's decision in 2017 to pay cadets who were injured in a 1974 grenade explosion at Canadian Forces Base Valcartier in Quebec. This resulted in the March 12th CBC story by Brewster entitled, Civilian Advisors Who Served in Afghanistan Deserve Compensation Now, Ombudsman Says. Surely this time Bill Blair would leap into action. Again, nada.
If I cannot get the attention of the minister, should I set up more meetings with members of all parties?
Greg Lick left the Ombudsman's office in July. But his successor, the acting CF and D&D Ombudsman Robin Hines, has taken up the cudgel on behalf of the LCAs. On 28 August, she wrote to Blair, notifying his office that she's launching a probe into Ottawa's treatment of these Afghan-Canadian LCAs. In a statement to the Ottawa Citizen last week regarding that ongoing investigation, Hines noted, we really thought we could get these individuals what they need and deserve through face-to-face engagements and letters with senior leadership of the Department of National Defence and the Canadian Armed Forces, including the Minister. Hines also acknowledged that this could be a last throw of the dice for the Ombudsman's office. At this point, we have very few tools left in the toolbox to encourage action. The report we will release in December will hopefully achieve that aim. Let's hope, for the sake of those former LCAs, that Minister Blair's office follows the military philosophy of not leaving a soldier or a team member behind. Canada owes these individuals the treatment and compensation that they earn while serving Canada. We shall remember their service. This has been On Target. I'm Scott Taylor.